I believe, but since my contract is with the county, I don't have any access to the VOR for that sort of thing. It would probably, I mean, I could as a person, but that would take a community effort, which, you know, is definitely a possibility. I mean, I was just dealing with the land that I had the agreement with them over it, so.
Madam Chair, maybe even though everyone would like to see the gazebo sooner, we'd like to see water in the lake sooner, et cetera, maybe we should get all our ducks in order before we make a move, so that we do it properly. It's much better to do it right the first time than have to go back and do it over.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Public comment?
I would like to ask Nicole,
Okay.
has this come up at a Parks and Recreation Board meeting?
It has, and the Parks and Rec Board did have some concerns, and Sharon was available at those meetings. The major concern that came out of that discussion with the Parks and Rec Board was the location. You know, either the north or south end might be a better fit for the reasons these gentlemen discussed here. Also, the elimination of that boat launch, which you said will no longer happen with this revised plan. So those were the two main concerns that the Parks and Rec Board had.
The other thing that reminded me, and I'm sorry, yes, the 4 campsites, if it went as proposed, the 4 campsites would not be used. However, there's 75 more down there. I mean, granted, they would not be there, but we do have many that are developed.
Yes.
So that really highlights part of my whole issue with this thing is that the negative effects, proposed last year and still the negative effects doing this work this year have not been disclosed to the public. And I believe, at least last year, the closing of the ramp and the campground, the 4 or 5 campground spots being lost, are major changes to the master plan that has to go through a public involvement process. That's all I'm asking for, is a public involvement process. And I think you guys as a sign-on or permit contractor with the VOR have some responsibility to check this kind of stuff out before you send a letter of support. Or you have to word it like the trust board finally worded it, and that's it. Well, someplace out there we would support having a gazebo, but we're not gonna say we're gonna do it right here. And I think, along with that though, now, if the campground is gonna be closed, or parts of it, you have, and Sharon and I have had this discussion, we had it last week after the trust board meeting. There is a perception, she's the permit holder for that developed campground site. So what happens when you close 4 or 5 campsites? Where do those people go?
The other end.
No, they go to Sharon's place, unless she's full. So there's a perception of the business conflict about having Sharon make the proposal as the contractor out there. And I totally agree with her. There's an opportunity for a public effort, community effort, to look at this. Frankly, I mean, this plan is how many years old now? No, the master plan for the silos.
Well,
Goes back.
for what it's worth, did you look at that master plan?
Yeah, I did.
That's 15 years old.
That's what I mean.
At
is that
least, because it's not current.
There is an opportunity to take a look at the silos developed recreation area and figure out if that's still the direction that the users want to go. I mean, when you sit down there in an evening and watch the traffic go up and down that road and you can't breathe in that campground because of the dust, I can tell you that working with commissioners in some other counties, they have closed that place down from the dust going into the lake and the dust and all that stuff. I mean, if you put an air monitor out there in the summertime, you probably wouldn't pass. So there are some things that need to be done out there, and they require being addressed, I think, as a whole. If people want to put their money behind a gazebo, I have no problem with it. I just have a problem with understanding why it's there. And just because Sharon has the permit for that area, she can still speak outside of it. She can hold a meeting and get the community together and have a community proposal to come forward that has support, instead of some of us having to come in And not talk bad about the proposal, but talk about the process in which we get there. Because right now, we have no process, and that's what we're asking you guys to take a look at.
Wouldn't, I think that, I mean, as much as Al and I have talked about it to this point, I think if there's gonna be a community, I would feel more comfortable that the commissioners, the county hold that, not I. Because with that, the only avenue I have is to go back to the commissioners, and appropriately, I think that would be better served as a county. I mean, if it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen anyway, when it goes to the BOR, because the BOR, part of the process now is to have that happen. So if that were going to happen, I think it would be more appropriate that it happened at a county level, not me.
Yeah, and that's what I think the role of
I
county
mean, I
commissioners
think
is.
that-
You guys have some public meetings on the site out there, you have your rec board and take their recommendations.
I mean, if they want to pursue it at this level, and I have no problem with that. Again, I was just doing with the land that we had, and a need. If it goes, I think if it's gonna go from here to public comment, I would rather see the county precipitate that. That's more appropriate, because that's where it would end up anyway, and I don't think I'm the appropriate messenger for that.
One thing with, Nicole,
I'm sorry, I'm just thinking through this. Would it be appropriate then maybe to have the Parks and Rec Board hold these meetings, these public meetings? We could hold them in the area out there. We, as a recommending board, could then bring those recommendations to the commissioners, so we're not bogging up your schedule. Our meetings are also evening meetings, which might be more amenable to the public. And then the Parks and Rec Board could bring our recommendations to you.
hold that thought.
Okay.
We have spoken already with Bureau of Rec on this. And Al put a suggestion for a meeting and a sidewalk out there already in his plan. Having the Parks and Rec Board go with us would be a good idea. This is not necessarily a park per se, but I think it would still be good to get the input. But I guess what I do want to just let you guys know, and you all as well, this is just like so many of the things that we do. An individual comes up with an idea. An individual puts together that idea and brings it to the commission. And then we have the commission act in the capacity that we can. And then if we decide to move forward, we follow a process. That happens with new employment, like we talked about at length this morning, and it happens with new gazebos at a campground. Same thing. So Sharon came up with the idea. She's the concessionaire. She's the one immersed in that whole area, the Broadwater Bay Silos Recreation Area. You guys are totally right. We need a public comment forum. That isn't necessarily Sharon's job. It is ours. But BOR would like to work with us on that. So a lot of the state agencies, in this case federal, that we work with, a person comes forward and says, I want to put in a gravel pit. What we do is DEQ, Department of Environmental Quality, will actually hold a public meeting for the county on that particular gravel pit. That's what BOR is offering to do. They would like to team with the county, have a public meeting on this, look at some of the other options, and also have a walkthrough of the area to see it. And we've done this before with them, this is not new. To eyeball it ourselves, walk it, feel it. The other thing, maybe this is an opportunity too to open up some of that day use opportunity. One of the problems, and this was brought out a little bit at the trust board meeting, but a couple of years ago, a couple of girls were swimming at the southern end, the day use, and there were some really creepy people down there that scared them. There was nobody else there because it is so detracted or separated from the camping area that they were completely on their own down there. They've never been back that I'm aware of, and they don't feel comfortable down there. The other thing is there's no facilities. People use the bushes. You can imagine that there's a lot of issues with that. That's gross. You know, it's you just don't want to camp in that when that's what's right next to you, the bushes. So there's a lot of things that BOR needs to address about that, and maybe there's an opportunity here with that. We certainly know there's a lot of problems. Maybe we can come to a solution on that. So if it's okay with the board, Sean will be here this afternoon at 2, Sean Bryant. I think if we could go ahead and table this until then, I think we can solidify how to move forward with BOR as a partner and find, is this the best option? Or if it isn't, what is? Is that agreeable to everybody?
Yeah.
What do you
That
guys
makes
think?
sense.
Okay,
We definitely gotta have the BOR involved, because they approve everything, no matter what you wanna do, if you wanna change this direction of a park, camp space, everything goes through the BOR first, they've got to be involved in these.
yep, and that's the process that we follow. As we do with everything, we have to follow a process.
Yeah, I just read this, I think good concerns in there, makes a lot of sense.
I would like to see somebody come up with an alternative plan.
And that, I think, would probably come out at a public meeting, probably more than one. And again, having eyeballs there, we can discuss it. And again, we've done this before, sure, Bryant and Bill Dykes have been really good at working with us on that, so. Yeah, what we'll do is we'll table this, let you guys know, what's happening moving forward. We'll be meeting with Sean at 2. And, he's really here to talk about Goose Bay Road and access to federal lands. But we're gonna throw this in as well. He's prepared for it because he was at the trust board meeting. If you guys would like to, that'd be great. I will tell you that we won't be necessarily approving this at all today regardless. The next step is to have a public meeting with BOR. They may want us to send a support letter that we approve a park, much like the trust board did, and would like to request that BOR work with us on a public hearing, just to make sure that the steps are totally transparent. But beyond that, I really don't see anything more than that happening today with this. All right, thank you very much for your comments. Sharon?
One more, which I'm sure Alan, Bob, and I will all agree, and related. What would we need to do to get the speed limit lowered from the Silos Bar down past our place?
Isn't it 25 now?
Stop blaming.
Or is it
35, I believe.
It's
35?
35.
Oh.
And I'm sure that we couldn't disagree on this one. It would cut down dust at speed bumps.
Well, it's a paved road.
Well,
The main dust is the other side of it, to the east of there.
Yeah.
That's
But-
25 though, isn't it?
No,
Through the
Uh,
campground?
it's-
Once you go in there.
it's 15 once you go in.
Once you go
good.
into the recreation area, yeah.
Okay.
But if is there any, actually, the most critical thing would be from Beaver down,
Yeah.
in
Right.
front of our campground, just because we have so many people walking. And we actually have people walking from Beaver all the way down. I'm just afraid that, again, someday a mother in a baby carriage because I've seen those boats and fly by at 45. Now, I don't know if the speed limit, at least it would make it more enforceable.
Right,
So it isn't directly related, but could you just quickly tell me what the process is? I didn't
yes.
come back if you're,
What you do is you go see Ann, you get a petition and put out the legal description and Ann can help you with that for the road. You'll need to get a petition signed by the people who live there.
okay.
And if it's those who live on the road or those who live in the neighborhood,
Okay.
and then come and see us with that request.
Okay.
But you're right, it certainly doesn't make it foolproof that people are gonna drive 25.
No.
But it does give law enforcement the teeth to enforce
Makes
that.
it more
that-
enforceable.
Absolutely. And heaven forbid if something happens, the tools to, prosecute much more toughly. And hopefully that would
I
have
wouldn't
some
want to
words
see
too.
that ever. What I'd really like is one of those signs that has a flashing, how fast you're going. Like they have
Yeah.
like they have in front of the school. Those have got to be millions of dollars, but still, that I think would be one of the greatest things in the world. You know what I'm talking about?
They're
Where
not
you're
that
cupping-
expensive.
They are.
But I know exactly what
Gives
you're
you
talking
shock
about. We just
collars.
talked about it up at Winston, and we've got the school
Highway, if
crossing
you
signs.
exceed.
No matter what, you notice those.
You do, you do. We can ask about potentially a grant for that. We'll look
That would be
into
an
that.
idea.
Yeah,
Even at the 35, if people, I mean, even if it weren't changed, but just one of those to show people how fast they're going, maybe that would be.
They automatically look down to see what they are going.
I do.
absolutely. we
I do, my foot hits
I
the
do
brake the minute I see that sign flashing at me.
Yeah.
So that would be maybe something else, I don't know whether that would come from a grant, never thought about that, from a grant through you all, or,
It would be the county because it's a county road. Probably
Okay.
wouldn't be NDT because it's not state.
okay.
But we'll do some homework because that's an interesting idea. and I
It's,
think
it
that-
could go away in the winter, you could use it up at Winston during the winter.
Yeah,
Winston
absolutely.
have it then?
Yes.
Okay, except for that.
All right,
No, thank
anything
you.
else?
Sorry this went longer, but
No, it was a good discussion. We got some good information, good input, so thank you very much. All right, next on the agenda is the COS. I don't see anybody here for that. We do have a lunch date at the hospital to get an update on how the hospital is doing, what it's doing and why. And besides that, we will be back at 1:30. And this afternoon, 3 o'clock today is the Board of Health meeting. So, yes, Judy.
skipping the community development and posting ladies plan?
Yes, we are. Thank you for that. That was Nicole, and she actually has a meeting in Helena that she has to run off to, so.
well, I saw her here, that's why I was wondering.
I'm glad you brought that up. I should have, I just missed it.
And that's taken.
Oh, every time.
Yes. So any other information from the board?
Table.
All right.
I missed that.
We just go over there,